Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sticking around with us. This is our almost next to last session, and we are very thrilled to be with you today to talk about learning tools. My name is Greta Lundgaard. I'm from the National Foreign Language Center, and I'm joined this afternoon by three ladies who are going to be sharing their expertise, their experiences, and their thoughts with this. So let's start with panelist number one. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi there. Greetings from Hayward, California. My name is Henny Chen. I teach Mandarin Chinese at Moreau Catholic High School and Chabot College.
And?
Hi, my name is Catherine Ousselin, and I'm a French teacher in Washington State in Bellingham, Washington. And here we are. And I am I'm just wonderfully excited to be here with you today. It's been 14, 15 years of learning how to use technology in different ways. Thank you.
And hi, everyone. My name is Carmen Scoggins, and I'm a high school Spanish teacher in beautiful Boone, North Carolina, which is home of the Appalachian Mountains. And I'm also an adjunct methodology instructor at Appalachian State University, and I've been teaching for 26 years.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Well, this panel is going to be talking about themes and questions around the TEL domain of learning tools. Learning tools are the things that we use in order to implement and help learning to happen in our classroom. And the learning tools that most of us are interested in right now are those around distance learning, online learning, and remote learning. So we have ladies here who have experience, who have been innovative, and who have guided lots of learning. So we're looking forward to what they have to say. We have some general questions that we're going to address first, but we will also be responding to questions from the Q&A box. And so we hope that we're able to get to your questions during the time that we have today. The chat box won't be monitored, but please feel free to process, add comments, add your own resources there as we go. So let's begin with our first question. And our first question is around best practices. What are these best practices for using tech tools, no matter what tools are being used? Carmen, can you start us?
I can. Thanks for asking. First of all, there are so many tools available to teachers, and so it's kind of hard to know where to even start. But the main thing is that you actually try something. Don't be afraid to try the technology that's out there and available to make learning a language so much easier for our students. But I suggest that you don't just use technology for technology's sake. Be somewhat selective in the tech tools that you choose. To me, that's best practices, because if I just jump on the bandwagon of everything that comes my way, then I'm not necessarily getting deep enough into the tool to figure out what it can really do to support my students' learning needs. So I suggest you keep in mind that in general, technology should inspire and motivate and build relationships and facilitate learning, make students feel comfortable, be fun to use, and highlight what students can do and synthesize at their own level, sort of personalize the language learning experience. So to me, those are the best practices in terms of technology.
Okay, I'm going to jump to. Yeah, totally agree with what Carmen said, because we want to focus on student completed assessment and a creative project that show a deep understanding of content by producing the target language. So I know a lot of teachers will ask what kind of a tool you use, but actually we want to make sure that those tools are seamless. In other words, try to make those tools invisible in our learning process. Let me put this in this way. Imagine that when you are cooking a soup or making a cake at home, right? You need a spoon to stir but to mix your ingredient well. If you do not have a spoon, then a chopstick works just as well, right? Is that it? Yeah. In the end, we have a delicious soup ready for families, right? You are not mentioning which spoon you are using or how awesome the spoon is. This is why we call technology a tool. Students just imply, okay, those technology daily in their classroom. Our job is to support and to help the student to effectively reach their learning goal. So this is the one I want to back to echo to what Carmen said. But when I reflect my best practice, my first sharing is about I+1. As a language teacher, we use I+1 all the time to assist the students' progress in their learning. That also works well when using technology. So my suggestion is choose a tool. For example, Google Doc, and then you try to maximize the advantage by using it, and then challenge yourself about how can I use that one more creatively to implement that in different way before introducing another tool to them. How about Kathleen, how you feel?
I agree 100%. I noticed that I have a lot of tools in my box, and then if I try to push out too much to my students, they said, what, how do I log into that again? Or what am I supposed to do? Or where do I record myself? And it's true that, I mean, like if we have a buffet that we're choosing from, you don't need to have every single thing from every single plate. But I like the idea of mixing and matching the tools so that we can get the different modes in. So if we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 things that sort of work the same way, as in like the ways that students interact with them, but that they produce different, that they touch the modes in different ways, I'm great with that too. Mix and match, but don't overwhelm.
Okay, excellent. So we have, the next question is real similar, and it's, you know, guiding principles, guiding questions, best practices. Sometimes those things are interchangeable, but when we talk about guiding questions to choose technology tools, those really aren't necessarily best practices because they're so specific. They can be specific, they can be general, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What are guiding questions to help me know which tool to choose?
I'd like to jump in on that one. It's the first thing I've written every time I've been reflecting on this is, are these tools equitable to all students? So some students have iPods, some of them have tablets, some of them have Chromebooks, some of them have PCs, they don't have a video camera, they don't have a webcam, they don't have the same thing in every hand. So are we making sure that the tools are equitable? Because sometimes if I'm using Seesaw and I make a little activity for my students where they have to drag and pull stuff over, if they're on a little phone, that's not going to be as easy as if they're on just using a mouse. So think about how is that looking for each student on the different devices. And that doesn't mean you have to own every device, but maybe, you know, try it out on somebody. And then, I mean, how are these tools, you know, supporting the linguistic and intercultural skills of our students? If it's just a flashcard, then I don't need that. I don't need another flashcard in my life. I need something that's opening up the world to my students so that they're using real world practices with the tool. Right? They've got something that they're exploring their passions. If I'm going to choose a tool, and you know, there's 2 types. There's the kind that's for assessment. There's the time that's for exploration, and you kind of want to fizzle those 2 together a little bit. And I just, if we're just relying on something that could have been done on a piece of paper, then that tool is not necessarily going to be helpful for our students.
Yes.
Okay. What else do you think on this?
I agree 100%, Catherine. Whereas a pen and a piece of paper might be the technology we need in the moment, if we're talking what we consider modern technology, you know, don't grab something that you could just do on paper because you're missing the point of, you're spending more time figuring out the tech tool than actually having kids produce the language, which is why we're there in the first place. So when I go to this in my own mind, I think of things sort of as a backward design model. Does the tech tool support the end goal or my learning targets? Because if it doesn't, then why am I bothering to use it in the first place? Is it relevant to making real world connections? Exactly what you just said. Does it somehow measure some type of proficiency? Can I use it for assessment, whether formatively or summatively? Does it enhance or support one of the modes of communication? communication, or perhaps all of the modes of communication? And does it offer differentiated possibilities? There's so many tools that help us do that. And we know, especially when we enter the classroom in a couple of weeks, that students' gaps and ability levels are going to be all over the place. We're going to need those tools to help support and guide us a little bit. And my last thing that I always go back to is, do the students even enjoy the tool in the first
100%.
place? Yeah, because if I'm just trying to grab things that I think are cool, so I always ask my students to reflect a lot, because I want to get some feedback from them. Is it user friendly? You know, these are things that drive, I know, my colleagues and myself in guiding questions to help choosing the right tool for the job.
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt, Henny, but I'm not in y'all's league. Okay, so I've seen this often. So I've learned Kahoot, for example, and I've learned Nearpod, and so what is my guiding principle? Here I am. I just really know two things, and I know how to do. In Zoom, I know how to do rooms. What is your guiding principle for me that's going to help me know where to go next in my professional journey? And I don't mean to interrupt the flow, but I'm the novice teacher. My instructional proficiency is very low. What can you tell me to help me in my professional journey? And then we'll get back to the other part of this question, if you don't mind.
Henny, take it.
Okay, so I'm really happy that you mentioned this question. The reason is, okay, a lot of people were obviously the first thing tag is about how to use what kind of tools. But I want to go back to our panelists. We have the same idea about when we talk about something. I believe, okay, the audience probably already know this. This is a book. There is a book which is mentioned several times during this virtual summit. The title is Learning First, Technology Second. So, okay, and then the author, Lisa Cope, she mentioned about when you use technology, so no matter it's a Kahoot or you mentioned a Nearpod, when you use a technology to enhance learning, ask yourself, is there any value added to the learning goal in this lesson? Or we can say in this particular activity by using technology compared to what I will not use. If I did not have technology, did I get some learning result or some learning evidence? If it's the same, we probably don't need those tools. Did I answer your question?
I think so, because I feel a lot of pressure. I feel a lot of pressure of all these tools y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
And so how do I get a comfort level? Is there like should I look at it by the tool for the mode?
Okay, so
my second start, yeah.
Okay, so my second one is probably to encourage us to go back to a TAIL project. We are all good teachers, and we want to be effective teachers too, right? So in the TAIL project, there are 7 domains under the learning tools domain. If you visit the website, it is on the bottom of the page. We can use the self-assessment tool. It is a questionnaire, and then to do the self-evaluation. Through that, we will give ourselves a very clear picture about where we are right now and what is the next step in using the tool in the classroom. So use the form wisely every quarter or every semester. Don't compare yourself to other teachers, okay? Okay. That was your guiding question to decide it. Should I feel horrible or should I need to worry about my level?
Okay, thank you. I feel much better now. Thank you.
That was great, Henny.
I do too.
So what other guiding questions, Catherine, could you talk to us about in terms of how to know which tool to use?
If I know that my students want a different, because honestly, at times my students have said, we're kind of over this tool now. Like Kahoot in my room went fast. It was not popular in 1 month. And then we always look like, are we overusing it? Like if we're using, I have someone that I say, hey, if you're doing this every single day for every single class, the kids are going to let you know. So look at your students. What's their engagement? What are they excited about? But also, what do they need? Just like Henny said. And if you are the teacher you're feeling comfort issues, don't worry about that. You're not being forced to. What we're saying as tech coaches is, what's your next step? What else do you need? And what's that one more thing that I can show you? That one more thing that might be the unicorn of the perfect world language tool. There are maybe 2 or 3 of them. I state one, I say seesaw. But it's not a unicorn that I can parade around everywhere, because it doesn't meet everybody's needs. So we look at you as the teacher and we say, what do you have? What do your students have? What are your outcomes? What are your needs? And then we kind of guide you towards that tool.
I have one more to add on. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
Okay. So I think I would say use the students' learning outcome to guide us. Okay, we already repeated that one. Okay, in different way. The learning outcome will speak for themselves. Use that one as a feedback to reflect our teaching, our delivery. Look at the student learning evidence. Analyze their weak part. Afterward, okay, based on that, we can either reteach. Or find some tools to reinforce their learning.
Okay.
So Carmen, it's yours.
Well, I almost forgot what I was going to say, but no, I got it. So Catherine just triggered this in my brain, that maybe when you are working with a group of students and you know them as well as you do, then you'll use a certain set of tools that works for them. But the next semester, when you get different students, you might not be able to just jump in and use the same tools you did. You might be able to, but you have to be flexible. That's what technology allows us to be, is flexible.
Yes.
There's so many tools that kind of do similar things, that if you can keep putting things in your toolbox, then you can pull one out. So my advice to you, Greta, would maybe be to try a formative assessment tool like Kahoot, but that's not Kahoot, but that's something that's similar, and that might help you make the transition to trying more technology. So,
Okay. We
Great
have
idea.
another follow-up from the audience. Let me make sure I get it down. I guess because of me revealing my vulnerability and with friends and everything, that I'm really good at PowerPoint, but I can't do much else. However, so what about student comfort? Because we do know we're not the only class the student has. He's got other classes, and there's a real potential that we're using this set of tools in my language class, this in my English language arts class, this in my science class. How do we support student discomfort when maybe he's got 10 or 12 different things he's got to be working with depending on the teacher? And I realize this is an unscripted question, so
It's a really good one though, because I've got that. I look at that in 2 different ways, because we are preparing our students for the next steps in their lives outside of our boxes of school, right? And the idea that we're not teaching them a lot of technology, like how is this tool built? We're teaching them how to do that for a specific purpose. So if they're going to be in marketing, we know how to lead them how to build infographics. If they're going to be in production of some type, we can help them with that. I like them to have that variety of tools, but we can connect with our colleagues at the school and say, at our school, we have a list of things that we feel are the best top 10 tools. Because we do 10 things, we use 10 different things every day. We might not use them perfectly, but we do have that choice, and they are for different things. Henny, like chopsticks and spoon, and a fork and a knife. It gets complicated if you put a measuring spoon in there. I mean, we can mix and match, but if we have a good cadre at our school district, we have like the top 10 list that we suggest. The other thing is, when you said student comfort, that reminds me of students who are technology anxious and choose not to use any technology at all. And we have to think about those workarounds for the students, because you might have the most fabulous tool in the world, but if that student has anxiety issues, or if they, for some reason, cannot be on camera or have audio of them recorded, there are so many reasons why, then you need to be thinking very carefully about your students before you push something at them.
Okay.
What else?
So I'm going to jump because when I think about this one, okay, I would say I believe, okay, during the pandemic, when pandemic starts, we move to the virtual class. A lot of teachers probably don't have idea which tool they are using. But right now, after 4 months, they are well equipped. They are so ready. So they probably were through a lot of technology to students. So I would say less is more, definitely. And besides that, I'm encourage everybody to provide a clear instruction about how to use this one and what do you like student to do. Otherwise, we will spend too much class time just to explain the use process of the tool.
Carmen, any thoughts?
Well, yes. Have you ever known me to be silent?
No, never.
I think I'd like to go back to what Catherine said about student comfort level and just, I am a Gen Xer. Clarissa was talking about the generations this morning, which I was like, oh my gosh, I did not grow up with all this technology as we know it today. So my learning curve has been interesting. And Greta, you just expressed your own concerns about yourself. So students, we assume that they are great with technology. They are not great with technology. I mean, they might be able to send a Snapchat or a billion Snapchats or to do a TikTok in class or whatever, but that doesn't mean they're going to know how to use the tools that we're asking them to use. And so, or back to Catherine, what she said about some students can't be on video or don't want to be on video, and you certainly don't want to force them. So again, I say you try to build enough support in your own technology selections that students have options. Not that we have to, bend over backwards every single minute, but if a kid really doesn't want to do a Flipgrid video and have his or her face on video, it's fine. Turn the camera facing away or do this with me live. One of the reasons we use technology is so we can facilitate and monitor and get around to everyone instead of having to sit one-on-one with each kid. So this way, when the other students are using the Flipgrid or whatever that, so I can see their faces. And if a kid doesn't want me to, then I just pull them aside and we just do it right there on the spot. And at least I'm getting the language production I need without putting them in any kind of stressful situation.
Thank you for saying that, Carmen. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I guess on Zoom that would mean, or on remote, that would mean I'm going to pull him into a room with me, right? I could do. Can I do that easily?
Yeah, in the breakout rooms, you can just grab I don't want to say grab that student, but you can invite that student.
Digitally grab. Digitally grab.
Okay. And you can, if you're manually choosing the Zoom rooms, you can put certain kids together. Like I'm going to start building that community of certain kids that I know that will work well together. And those are going to be Zoom buddies for maybe a month, like they'll be together. And then if there's one student who I know is hesitant, then we can go into a Zoom room privately, or they can send me an email, or they can record it on their phone and send it to me privately. However, but I do need to see the engagement.
And that's a perfect segue because you use that word community, which we have talked so much about today. And so how can we use our learning tools then to build community? I think one of the anxieties is that when I went online in March, I already knew my students. I had a relationship. They knew each other. Now I'm going to get brand new students and maybe I don't know them. I was the German teacher, so I got all of my students. But if I'm a Spanish teacher, a French teacher, a Chinese teacher, depending, I may not know. How can I use these tools to build community in my classroom?
Yeah. Okay, let me answer that one. But before I answer the question, since we are in the last discussion panel in this summit, I would like to take this great opportunity to thank you, National Foreign Language, right?
Oh,
because
you're so sweet.
Yeah, you host this virtual summit right before school start. This is the best demonstration on how to use technology to build a community. Let us give us a round of applause.
I love that.
It was a great team effort. So thank you so much on their behalf. All right. So now answer my question.
Okay.
Girl.
So speaking of building community, the first things that pop up in my brain is my social media, such as Twitter, Facebook, and my YouTube channel. I know Catherine can follow me a little later. When I was in class, I don't have time to stay close with my professional network on social media. But during the pandemic, since we are not going anywhere, so we have chance to reconnect with other teachers around the world. It reminds me that I also have a Twitter account for student, which means it's not my personal account. So I'm thinking, okay, to use it again to connect students outside of a classroom. It doesn't have to be a Twitter. I also can evaluate a Slack or a private group channel apps. The idea is to make it functional, totally like a student are walking through my classroom door and wave to me, say, 乖宝早 or 老师好, which means, hi, Henny. Okay, and then share with me about their day. So the proposal here is to reach out to students and show them I'm here for them. And I also, I work for a private school, so I share my Google Voice number. It's very easy to set up, but you are not ready to pick up the phone. But okay, student and the parents can send me a message. If they need a shoulder to cry on, a virtual hug, or a person to listen, I'm available. How about Catherine?
I'm going to be using Seesaw, and I'll just explain real quick why Seesaw, because it's kind of like they can do a lot of Snapchatty features on it, and they just added some new updates on it and some bling. I was talking about that unicorn, and I believe I seen the corn. It's in a stream, and students can like and comment on each other's stuff. You can do all that sort of stuff. I was thinking about Jamboard too. Jamboard allows you to have those sticky notes that you can put stuff up, kind of like how Padlet is. If Padlet had understood that, taking away our free boards was just wrong in so many ways, but we find workarounds, don't we? Yeah. And that's where we always say to teachers, be resilient. We talked about resilient pedagogy. Well, resilient teaching is also one of those things. When an app or a tool goes from free to premium, what do? Well, you start looking at what is it that I really need to do. But to get that community going, I want the students to see, if it's not themselves, it's not their faces, it's like find the most important stuffy that you have, the stuffed animal. Take a picture of it. Or take a picture of something in your life that brings you joy. Right. And then we can have them talk about it or write about it. We're going to be building community a lot, I think, in my school, just in those first few weeks in franglais, a little French, a little English, because French 1 kids coming in, we've never met them. We've never seen them. I have a couple expectations, but I won't get to see them most likely until maybe December or January. So starting with those relationships, what is important to you? So I, as the teacher, can get to know you. And then who do you match up with in class? And when we find this, like you can say about Flipgrid, Flipgrid Fever is impressive, but there are other tools. Like, what else do you know? What other tools, Carmen? Do you have something that builds community or like?
Yeah.
I mean, of course.
Yeah. Of course, Flipgrid. Anytime that students can see each other. So around my area, we are going to be going back into the classroom face to face. So we'll have some actual time to build that physical community where. When I'm eventually going to be teaching them remotely, because I'm sure that's going to happen, then I'm sorry to say that, but then I will know them a little bit. But as far as technology to unite us and bring us together, anytime something where I can see them or just like you said, where they present something that is meaningful to them, that's going to build community. So any of the tools that do that, even just their video or photo thing on their iPhone or their cell phones, that can build community. Any of the polling sites would build community. Any of the gaming tools, any of those like GimKit or Kahoot or anything where they're competing against each other, Quizlet Live, where they all feel a part of something, and certainly social media, because that is their language. So I always say, learn to speak the language of your students so that you can help build community with them, because if you speak their language, then they'll want to learn the language you're sharing with them even more. And so anything like that, like online breakout rooms or escape rooms that encourage and engage students and make them think about using the language in a different way and at a higher level, is going to build community, because they are competitive no matter what age they are. I'm competitive and I'm pretty old. So anything that just supports their natural brain development. And that's what these tools are for, is it's really going to help us build community.
You know, it's funny because I couldn't get all my kids on the Google Classroom doing the awesome little, the Bitmoji things that I had made up for them. But if I post this thing on Instagram, all of a sudden I have 50 likes from all different levels. And I go, that's community, believe it or not. And they see each other. They're like, oh, you follow Madame on Instagram? Oh, me too. You know, it gets to be a cool thing. And that's okay. That was still engagement.
Yeah. So what I'm kind of hearing is something that Clarissa referred to in her talk this afternoon, or whenever it was. They were all so great. Right? Was it this morning or this afternoon? This morning, I think. Is that the tool has to be relevant to them. If the tool is relevant to them, right, and somehow Instagram is cool, TikTok is cool, those things are cool, and that helps build that community because they want to already go there. Is that
Yeah.
I would put on TikTok. TikTok might have some issues coming up here soon. So just get ready for the next thing after TikTok.
All right. Did everybody hear that? Okay. Everybody know.
I also want to highlight a couple sections in this summit. Okay, Katrina Griffin, she has a feature section in day 2. I don't think there's a number for that. Her topic is about see us as a human. And then there are all students sharing panel these 3 days from middle school student, high school student, and college student. I believe, okay, we can learn from that, and then we can take a lot of takeaway, and then to encourage us how to build up the community.
Okay, y'all are fantastic, and I know everybody is trying to write down all of these names of these tools, but they already know the tools, right? Really, right? It's just somebody like me taking the time to sit down, commit to it, figure it out. And I can't figure it out and commit to it without using it on my students, right? I always say education is the only profession where we actually field test on our clients.
Oh,
right?
Yes, all the time.
Every
They're my
time.
little guinea pigs. I have to say it like that. Test pilots. I better say it that way.
Test pilots, that is much better. So I'm going to throw another question out at you. And this is, again, thinking of the vulnerable teacher, the teacher that's not quite as confident. I was a little shell-shocked, and now I'm even shell-shocked more. So every time I try to use technology, something goes wrong. Something goes wrong.
What?
So I know it's just only me. It's only me it happens to. But and I know I've learned I've got to have a plan B. So maybe share with us, share with the audience, share with me. What is your go-to backup plan? Let's say I plan something, whether it's a tool I'm just learning or a tool I've been using a lot. Sometimes things happen. What's a go-to backup plan, or what do you do? What are some ideas? What do I do if it just bombs and I totally mess it up?
If you lose internet.
I lose internet.
Okay. Lose internet at school. I'm in a portable out in the boonies, and that happens quite often. And you have that perfect YouTube video set up, or that perfect thing that you're going to have the students do. And sometimes, as I've taken out my iPod and I use it as a dock camera, and I go around the classroom and I'm projecting it through we have an Apple TV so that the students can see like this is my little mobile document camera. So I walk around and I can show student work to the whole group at once. And if you're going to do that, or if you need, if you had an infographic activity where they were going to be interacting with it live, you say maybe you've got 15 copies for a group of 30, or even 5 copies, and you put them into groups. Naturally, the phone rings. So sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. So how about Jolene? Oh,
go ahead.
So I flash back to the middle of March. I share my emergency plan to students. There are 3 things to do: replug your earbud, reconnect your internet, and then reboot your computer. And I told them, if there anything doesn't work and you could not solve the problem alone, then grab your Chinese reading book with your boba milk tea. Enjoy your reading time. Seriously, right? Okay. But here I'm also want to encourage a teacher to host an online orientation before your first class, and then talk about how to learn online, because there are a lot of students, they don't know how to learn online, and how to learn a world language remotely. They are first time to learn the world language probably. And what is your backup plan with your student? I believe, okay, is if we have a backup plan and a student know that one very well, we don't need to worry about that.
Okay, that's a good idea. Carmen,
Yeah.
how can you help me?
Again, and I mentioned this earlier, but if you have like a plethora or at least a base, like a foundation of tools that you go to, typically several tools are going to fit into the category that you need. So if you are planning to do an activity with something that's the site is down. Now, if the internet's down, that's a whole different thing. And then you just start crying and then, whatever.
You grab a book.
Yeah, then you're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to have to sit here and look at each other. But if the site you want to use is just down, then have another tool that's very similar that you can go to and use. However, I don't know if anyone else experienced this, but when we went to remote learning or emergency learning, everyone jumped on the Edpuzzle bandwagon. I've been using Edpuzzle for years. It's probably my favorite tool. That's my unicorn tool. And and it was down and the students kept emailing me and I was like, oh, great. What are we going to do? So I just found another way to share that same video with them. And I wasn't able to embed questions, but I said at this point and this point and this point, we need to be answering these questions. So it took a little bit longer, but I still was able to use the video that I wanted to use. I just had to rethink. So I've recently been talking about rethinking, recalculating, if we take a wrong turn, our GPS is going to say recalculating. And that's what we're going to have to be able to do with these technology tools, because not everything is sustainable. I mean, or things happen and we just have to be ready. If, for example, you were trying to use Padlet and you needed students to post things and the tool is down, then just grab some sticky notes and let kids go to the wall and post like they would on the Padlet. They don't have to have the tech tool. Again, go back to what works, that paper and pencil. If that works, do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we could just talk forever, and I enjoy talking to you guys so much that I could just talk to you guys forever too. However, we do need to draw our talk to a close because we have the sunset chat with Thomas and Laura coming up. So I'm going to ask you just to kind of pause a moment and reflect. If you were going to give a word, a parting statement, one piece of advice, one piece that's going to build my confidence, anything like that, what would you say to our viewers? Maybe they're not all like me. We have very diverse viewers. So you've got some that are very accomplished, some like me, some just first year teachers that are maybe glued to one or two tools because that's what I use in my life. But now I'm going to have to actually teach students with these things. So if you're ready, just go ahead and talk and we'll just kind of go when you feel like you're ready. Who'd like to start?
I feel like I want to say this to most of the people whenever they come to tech workshops. And it is more like we are modeling for our students the idea of lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can stay in our comfort zone. We can stay with our tools, our activities that we've used for 10 years. You've got those bags of flashcards or activity things all stuck away and you use them and they've got little dog-eared edges on them. But we need to model to our students that we are courageous, that we're going to take that initiative and try something new, and it might fall flat on us. And that's when we model, guys, guess what? I've got a backup plan. We can be the adventurers, we can be the brave innovators, but we can also just take that first step towards a new idea and ask our students to help us through that path. Be who you are, and then model the next step for your students.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah, I love that, Catherine. That's exactly what I wrote down. I want always my students to see me as a learner. Yeah. So I involve them in everything I do. I use the word guinea pigs. I say, you're going to help me explore this so we can learn together. I don't know everything about it, so I want you to help me. I just involve them as much as possible to model collaboration and how you work together to solve problems and figure things out. And that's what I would just encourage everyone to do. Just don't forget to keep learning, keep sharing as much as possible. Ying mentioned this afternoon that the best PD is right down the hall. And that's exactly right. Go to your colleagues and say, look what I found, or can you help me with this? And don't be afraid to try something new. This year is going to be completely chaotic anyway. You might as well take some risks and learn and grow together, and always reflect so that you can learn from the experience, because we don't really learn from going through the experience. We learn on reflecting from the experience.
Reach out on Lang Chat. If you're on Twitter, definitely get in contact with someone and say, oh, you know who your top, tech freaks are. Find us and get in contact and say, what else can I do? Or, like I do Zoom things one-on-one with teachers to say, how can we support you? There are teachers out there who will stand by you and give you that lift.
Yeah. I'm going to say I use the I+1 to start our conversation, and I'm the last one, so I'm going to use the I+1 to end the conversation. Okay, it's cool. The I is yourself. Okay, so take care of yourself. Technology is the second thing. So take care of yourself first. Eat well, exercise well. And also, student need you, your family need you, your school lunch buddy need you. So take care of yourself, and then +1, right? So you need to learn a little things, little by little, step by steps. You don't need a lot of things, and then just want to make sure, just want to achieve a very high goal, steps by step. And I believe we are here, and then we can go together. Thank you.
Oh, well, ladies, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot. I feel empowered to go out and learn, and I know our audience does too. So thank you so much, audience. See you at the Sunset Chat. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.